Hello everybody. Well, it's another week has went by and we're back here on Saturday again, and I did get a new cherry picker purchased. Let's start this video out with cleaning this up a little bit. It's a little bit messy around here, so let's get it cleaned up and then we'll get that new cherry picker put under it and see if we can't get this tractor pulled apart. I already know that this jack is not high enough for it won't go any higher, so I'm just going to go ahead and pull it out from under it and put the floor jack underneath it to get it high enough. Well, that just caused some damage. I was telling you there was a lot of weight there, right? Yeah, I should have probably threw a couple bolts in on the bottom side of that. One of my wheels broke off the bottom of my cherry picker, so. Well, I'm gonna pause the video there and we will pick back up in a while. Well, I decided to come right back. Hey, this is something y'all look for, right? Carnage. Well, we probably have got some carnage here. And I'm gonna throw some blocks and a 60-ton jack underneath it. We'll get this jacked up. And we're gonna find out what I done to it. Smaller jacks will work. Okay, sorry about that. I had a phone call. I don't think this is going to work here. Let's see if I could use that to lift up that axle a little bit. We've got that tractor sitting on that new cherry picker now. I think I got no choice but to come back inside. Are you all seeing this stuff? I'll just take you up close here. So, yeah, I think I'm not sure how that all works, but possibly I busted a shaft. But I know there's sun gears in there, so maybe that's just slipped out of the sun gears. I could only hope. But I should have thrown 2 bolts back into the bottom of this, and I did not do that. I'd snugged the one back up here on top, but then when I let down, there was nothing to hold the bottom in, and she come out. But I think the only way I can rescue my cherry picker here is to just come in here with my 40-20 tractor and hook up to this, and we'll just go ahead and lift this wheel off this cherry picker, and then I can fix the little wheel on the bottom of it. And I suppose once I feel like I got good bottle jacks underneath this, then we can go ahead and finish pulling the other side out without any incidences, I hope. So I will just put you back here. I'm just gonna pause you for a little bit while I go get my tractor, and then we'll put you right back on. is all maxed out. It can't lift that. It lifted it a little bit, but that's as much as it's gonna go. lay that wheel down on the ground. So we've got it down on the shop floor now, and I've got the fan going to keep a breeze going. Maybe this camera will quit getting hot. So anyways, we've got it off of there. Those are the 6 bolts we're going to have to remove on this side, and then there'll be some on the other side just to get that differential out. Did I cause any damage over here? Well, let's take a look and see. So I'm seeing a piece here. Aha, I did. I snapped the tooth off here. So that's on me. I get to buy that. Get to get that piece replaced. Let's see if there's any other damage. There's one of that tooth. I believe that piece is okay. That's a brake pad. There's a little bit of damage right here along this edge, but I really don't know why a guy can't just smooth that up with a file or even an angle grinder. Just take the edge off. I don't see any more damage. These must be the brakes that my buddy was telling me about. He says while you're in there you should go ahead and replace them. That weighs about 30 pounds. Okay, well, I guess I would have rather broke that piece than to have messed up and cracked this case or something. So, try to look at the positive side of things. And guys, I'm not gonna lie, I was embarrassed that happened. I shut the camera off, and I got to thinking about it, and it's like, you know what, I'm a farm boy. I grew up as a farm boy. I don't have a college education in this stuff, and neither do most farmers. This is the kind of crap that goes on a farm, and I just decided to turn the camera back on and keep on filming, so it is what it is. So let's continue on here, and maybe I might chain this a little bit differently. I'm not sure yet. Maybe I might run a chain from the hook down along the inside of the tire and just around the axle, because there is so much weight here on this side with this big weight plus that. I don't think it's going to try to go that way, but maybe I'll put a second chain through the tire like I did the other one, but chain it loosely. So that way if this was to tip back this way, the chain would come tight and catch it. Because if I don't have something there and it was to come back this way, I'm screwed. So anyways, I guess let's get busy and put some chains on there, and maybe redo our jacks down under here a little bit. Just get them good and tight. And let's get this other one pulled off. I'll keep you in the breeze this time so y'all quit getting hot on me. guys, we're back again here. I got kind of mad earlier over that deal there, and I went to the house and took a break. Think about this for a little while, and I've come to the conclusion I am just dealing with too much weight here, trying to take this all off in one piece. So I've got this thing chained up just to hold the wheel, and there are some bolts missing here, but normally you got 3 bolts. This one's missing, but there should be 3 bolts there, and that holds a wedge in there. And then this bolt, and then this one's missing. These 2 you screw the other way, you screw them clockwise, and it pushes that wedge out, which will loosen its grip that it has on this shaft. And then this here, I believe, turns a cog wheel that will work in those deals, and it just will work the wheel out. It's so you got an adjustable wheel for row crops, and I'll just work it till it comes completely off the end of the shaft, and we're just going to remove it off the shaft. It's what I should have done with that one, but that's a lot more work too. I was trying to save that work, and actually I have been working on this a little bit. I got this one to come loose, this one here, I have been hammering on it and hammering on it. It will not come loose, and I don't have big enough sockets, and I've got an impact wrench and it just won't bust it loose. So I'm either going to have to go buy some bigger wrenches. I do have some big impacts for truck wheels. I got one that fits it pretty close, but I don't want to use it because I'm probably going to beat the head of that bolt up with it using that big impact. So if I can chase down a socket that will fit that tighter. Basically I'm at a stall here again because, you know, I got to take that off the end of the shaft. Guys, I can eliminate probably, I don't know, 200 to 400 pounds there. And but now this is, you know, another wrestling match getting that loose. So, and that one will probably be a wrestling match, because that's what I'll do here. Before I put this back together, I will come back in here with my loader tractor and we will set it back upright, and I will knock all them bolts loose, and we will work on getting that out of there. So I guess that is going to conclude everything. This is kicking my ass, I'm not gonna lie, and costing me money now. But we'll get her. Hopefully that'll be my luck, that this will be the piece that I cannot find. But being a truck driver, I run all around this country, and I see all the honey holes. I know where there's a lot of John Deere salvage yards sitting around the country, and I will look them up. I will chase it down till I find the parts. May have to go clear to New York, you never know. But hope not. But anyways, we're gonna call it good for this weekend and go back to trucking for a week, and I'm gonna have to chase down some bigger tools, and we will be back with you next weekend. Y'all have a good week.